Hi, thanks for watching. Okay, in this video, I'd like to talk a little more about what I feel is psychology's unhealthy bias towards emotionality. Okay, I want to keep talking about how I feel psychology today, I think, has this sort of almost like axiomatic, almost like constitutional belief that the foundation of one's health and humanity is in the quality of one's emotions. Okay, that somehow the quality of emotion is the guide, is like the guiding star, or like the foundation of how healthy we are. Okay, and I think that's just a bias. I think that's a tradition. I think that's a belief. It's almost like a religious belief. I don't think it's scientifically proven. And I think that we have to be very careful because psychology is not a hard science, okay? And I don't think there's any way to prove, and in fact, I think there's a lot of ways to suggest otherwise, okay, that somehow the quality of one's emotions is the measure of how healthy a person is, okay? Now, I will admit that someone can have unhealthy emotion, okay? I will admit that people have sometimes emotional insensitivity, okay? But that doesn't mean that the answer, okay, is in focusing on emotion, because I think that in a way it can backfire on us. If we focus too much on emotion, we can actually get worse. Okay, even in the effort to try to improve our emotions. Okay, if we focus too much on emotions, I think we can actually sort of make worse the problem that's already started. Okay, so basically, I want to really challenge psychology's emotionality bias, okay, and sort of like the belief system that the quality of my humanity is found in the quality of my emotions, okay, because I think if we focus too much on emotion, I think we'll actually miss the real problem, okay, and I think the real problem with personality disorders is not how would you say the real problem with our personality disorders is not what we're doing with our emotions. That may be the symptom. That may be the symptom, but the real problem is something else. Okay, so um, whereas psychology wants to look at the situation of our emotions. Okay, I want to look more fundamentally at the situation of our engagement with our environment, and our engagement with our circumstances. Okay, are we engaged or are we sort of disengaged? Okay, I think that is what causes the emotional problems. All right, so I'm not saying emotions aren't important. I'm saying, what is the path? What road do we take to fix the emotions? Okay, so it's almost like a mapping problem. You see like all these different roads. Okay, and psychology wants to take the emotional road to fix an emotional problem. And I'm saying that maybe we need to take the engagement road, and that will fix the emotional problem. See what I'm saying? So it's almost like I want to fix the same problem. I want to improve the emotions, but I want to take the engagement path, improve our engagement with our environment, with our circumstances, and that I feel that taking that road, our emotions will sort of be fixed in the process. Okay, and also we'll learn that it's not really so much our emotions we want to fix. I mean, it's nice to have better emotions, but we really want to be healthier. Okay, and if we're healthier, it's just almost like a side effect. The emotions will get better. So I don't even think we should say like our goal is to improve our emotions. Okay, our goal is to be more engaged and more healthily sort of like integrated with our environment. Okay, and in other words, we should be striving we should be striving first, I think, to have a better integration with our circumstances and environment, and then I think our emotions will just sort of kind of fix themselves in the process. Okay, so I don't even think the goal should be really I want to have good emotions. I think the goal should be I want to be more integrated and I want to be healthier. Okay, I want to be more authentic as a person. So I'm just going to say right now, I just think that psychology, I think, is very naive. I think it comes from a culture, it comes from a tradition, it comes from a belief system about the human being that it already has us kind of separated from our environment. Okay, in a way, and I think it sort of looks at the human as just like the quality of our emotions is how healthy I am. I think that's a very narcissistic way to look at the human being. Okay, that's already presupposing that we're sort of disengaged from our environment. Okay, and So basically, I just want to focus on, and even examining what is a personality disorder or how do you get better from a personality disorder. The main concern I have, I'm not going to look so much at the emotions. Okay. My main concern is how engaged is that person with their environment and circumstances. Okay. How engaged. Okay. And then secondarily, we can look at, what's going on in their emotions. All right. So basically my theory of personality disorders, okay, is that you get into a personality disorder by being too involved in how you feel. Okay. How you feel. Okay. Now let's remember, there's healthy emotions, but there's also unhealthy emotions. Okay. So a person who's in a personality disorder is totally wrapped up in how they feel. Okay. They may not have healthy emotions, but they're in the world of how you feel, how you feel, how you feel, maybe in an unhealthy way, but they're already wrapped up in too much in the feeling. Okay. And I think that we need to identify that. Okay. Part of the reason you're in the personality disorder is you're too much in the feeling of life and not engaged in life. Okay. And that right there is, I think that is the personality disorder, too much in the feeling. Okay. So, basically, how do I think personality disorders get started? Okay, I think it is temperamental. I think some people are very touchy, temperamental, very sensitive. I think some people are very, very uncomfortable with dissonance, with discomfort, with things that don't feel right, and they get so caught up in sort of policing and monitoring their distress and their feelings, and whether they're feeling gratified or comfort or discomfort, they get so caught up in that they start disengaging from actually dealing with their circumstances and their environment. Okay. Now, how does that apply to a child? Because do we really want children to be like engaged and like, like, do we really want to put that on children to be like, the responsibility of being engaged with their environment? Well, I don't know. I don't have a full answer to that. I just think that maybe in a healthy family, okay, maybe the children are not necessarily overexposed to having to like take on the responsibility of their environment, but maybe they see their parents doing that. Okay. And maybe when the parents are engaged in their environment, engaged in their affairs, in their circumstances, okay, and actually dealing with their affairs and their circumstances, as opposed to being caught up in the feelings of life, okay, I think maybe that sort of transmits to the children as a vibe, a vibe that's maybe not so much into like, how are we feeling? How are we feeling? How's my pleasure? How's my gratification? I think when you grow up in a family where the emphasis is more on engagement, okay, even though the children are not necessarily taking on responsibility, maybe at a very, very early age, maybe they're picking up the vibration. They're picking up the how do you say, like the vibration. It's almost like, what is it like to be around a family the where the emphasis is not on feeling but on engagement. Okay. On being engaged. Okay. Because basically my theory is that there's two ways to have emotion. Okay. When you have emotion that's in engagement, when you are engaged and your emotions are together with engagement, okay? In other words, how you feel is sort of integrated with your engagement in the world. Okay, I think that's a richer emotional process, okay? And I think metabolically, I think we're more there's a more complete metabolic circuit, and I think that stabilizes our moods, and I think it has a way of just kind of just stabilizing us. Okay, so in other words, I think that because engagement in the world is more taxing, okay, and because it does create a burden for us, okay, that adds a lot of like dissonance just on our plate, okay, and a lot of kind of discomfort. And if we just sort of like maintain our engagement with the world, we sort of carry a sort of a tax burden, okay, which I believe is sort of it's a necessary kind of a loading that I think allows for like a complete metabolic process. It sort of has a natural way, I believe, of keeping our mood stable and keeping our kind of our behavior and our relations with the world, keeping it more stable. Okay. And kind of more integrated. We're less polarized. We're more kind of woven into just our larger society. in our environment, in our, I don't know, like our, yeah, like, I don't know, well, even our culture, even our, yeah, like society, and so I think that, as we become more focused on feeling, okay, I think you could almost draw a correlation to how we sort of become more fragmented in society, and we break off into like different groups and stuff, because the less you can handle of like, the less you're engaged in like the taxation of your environment, I think the more you're focused on, involved in like, say, how you feel, I think that will correlate to sort of like less integration with different types of people. Okay. And I think you'll almost see like a correlation that as people become more feeling focused, you're going to see sort of a breakup in like the different factions of society where people don't relate to each other as well. Okay. So I think it'll cause a lot of problems. It'll cause a lot of problems where people become more unstable personally, and where they also lose their ability to have meaningful dealings with people who are diverse in society. Okay. So basically, I'm just saying, I think it's good for our metabolism to have a little more loading, a little more burden, a little more environmental engagement. Okay. Because I think that puts sort of a chronic dysthymia and a loading on us that sort of causes our minds to have to process more dissonance. And sort of metabolically, I think it has a way of kind of stabilizing us more in a kind of a very therapeutically mild dysthymia, which is, I think, a little bit of dysthymia is actually the sweet spot for us, where or also unconsciously we're processing more information, okay, without orchestrating it. All right. So basically, for me, the big telltale of human health is not emotionality, but engagement. Okay, so I look more at engagement as opposed to emotionality. All right, and I think how we get into the personality disorder is that we're too much focused on feeling, how I feel, what's my gratification, what's my irritation, and we're sort of managing our irritation, and that's sort of like so focused that we're actually disengaging from actually being, we're actually unplugging from being engaged in the world. Okay. And I think that's automatically how, when a person is so much focused on their feeling, you're going to see more dishonesty come up. Okay. Because when you put more of a priority on how you feel as opposed to the reality of your engagement in the world. Okay. Now the question of, like, say, being truthful. Okay. That's going to be forfeited in favor of what feels better. Okay. And so subtly, very subtly, we're going to start being more dishonest. We're going to start being less authentic. We're going to start becoming more avoidant. Okay. And then we're going to have the anxieties that come from being dishonest and avoidant. So it's like a vicious circle, and we become more anxious. Then we have to manage more our feeling, and we become less engaged in the world. Okay. So I really think the answer as to how personalities get started, even though a person with a personality disorder does not have normal emotions, they're still totally caught up in how they feel, how they feel, how they feel. That is the trap, okay, that I think causes personality disorders. You get chronically way too situated in how you're feeling, and that starts to have a conflict in how you're actually dealing with the world. Okay, I apologize for these dogs. It's so frustrating, these neighbors. So sorry. These dogs are out of control. Anyway, so this is very good personality disorder practice, right? Frustration. No, but anyway, so I think that so yeah, personality disorders to me, even though the feeling, even though the emotionality in a personality disorder is different, okay, because maybe, in a personality disorder, in the interest of managing how I feel, I may shut off to people, I may get cold to people, I may lose my warmth. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm losing my emotionality. I'm very emotional in the sense that I'm totally wrapped up in managing how I feel. Okay, so let's not forget that. Even though a person starts to become muted in their warmth towards others, or they start to lose their empathy or whatever, that doesn't mean they're totally wrapped up in how they feel. They're totally wrapped up in managing their gratifications, their comfort zones, avoiding irritations. So that is totally being wrapped up in feeling. Okay. And so I'm saying that if you're too much in the feeling mode, okay, you are going to disengage. You're going to unplug from being engaged in the world. Okay. So my suggestion is that, as we look towards health and towards, like, say, sort of recovering from a personality disorder, okay, I don't think the psychologist should focus so much on let's get into a better emotional space, okay? I think just leave that aside and take the road of getting more engaged in the world, taking on just re-engaging with the world and putting less importance on how you feel, all right? And yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt, but that is the therapy. The therapy is not coddling a person in their feeling, because that feeds into their personality disorder. Okay. If my therapy is dancing around the comfort of the patient, okay, and that's the culture we live in today, where everything's around the comfort, like, oh, that feels uncomfortable. You know, we need to not coddle the emotionality, okay, but basically just put it on people and just say, look, if you want to recover from a personality disorder, the problem is too much feeling, okay? And so if you're interested in recovery, you have to ask yourself the question, are you willing therapeutically to engage in less attention to your feelings, okay, and more focus on engagement with the world, knowing that it's going to make you uncomfortable? Are you willing to go in steps and start getting uncomfortable to try to get better? That's the challenge to people, who are even questioning whether they want to get better and want to enter into recovery. Okay, so it's just like with drug addiction. Drug addiction is way too much caught up in how one feels, so much that you're totally unplugged from reality. And the question to anybody who wants to recover from drugs: are you willing to finally be uncomfortable? Are you willing to go in those steps and to get healthy and to start unplugging from the comforts and from being into the how you feel? All right. So it's really that, to me, that's the challenge. That's the first step. And obviously you want to take it in small steps. Okay. So it's not like you're going to throw somebody into full engagement. You want to go in steps, just getting step by step, just more engaged in the world and sort of almost disregarding how you feel. I mean, I'm being serious, and just putting more emphasis, changing the priority, okay? Because we're programmed from a very young age in a personality disorder to be more concerned with how we feel, with our discomforts, with our gratifications. Okay, that's given more of a priority mentally. And all I'm saying is just switch the priority, okay, to where we start putting more priority in getting engaged in the world, okay, and not being so preoccupied with managing and orchestrating our comforts, our discomforts, our gratifications, our frustrations. Get more into the engagement, okay? And that will not make us callous, actually. That will not make us callous, because I'm not saying we want to be like, I'm not saying we want to put like a kibosh on feelings. I'm saying put a priority on engagement and almost not think about the emotions. Just don't think about it. I'm not saying to put a suppression. Okay, there's a difference. I'm not being anti-emotional. I'm just saying put more of a priority on engagement. And I'm thinking that as you sort of leave emotions just sort of outside the priority scope, and you focus on engagement, I think the feelings will come back, but they'll come back in a more healthy way because we'll be more integrated and more engaged in our circumstances. Okay. And I think even the first step is the discomfort of that. Okay. And just allowing the discomfort. I think that opens the door to actually having a healthy emotionality, where I'm not managing my emotions. See? So basically, my suggestion is that if we want to propose recovery, and I hope that someday therapists will be kind of tough with the patients and say, look, you want to get better, okay? Here's what I propose, okay? My proposal is that, are you ready to start being uncomfortable? Okay, are you ready in steps to start being a little uncomfortable towards being healthy? If you're not ready, just let me know. You're not ready. That's fine. But if you're ready, let's start doing this. Okay. And the idea is just to focus more, put more of a priority on getting engaged in the world and engaged in one's circumstances, where the priority is not how you feel. It's not your emotional state. The priority is, what do I have to do to deal with my circumstances, and put that as a priority in my life? My priority is dealing with my circumstances, dealing with my environment, okay? And that's my number one. And however I feel, I'm not going to orchestrate that. I'm just going to let it be uncomfortable. I'm going to trust that I can be uncomfortable, but I'm going to put my first priority on just dealing with my circumstances and my environment, okay? Completely, everything about my environment, everything about my circumstances, okay? And so as you start to not have control over how you feel and you focus more on dealing, okay, you are going to start having more feeling, okay? And it's going to come from discomfort, all right? And if you just don't orchestrate it and you just keep your priority on just dealing with your circumstances and being engaged in the world, okay, you're going to start to learn the meaning of true suffering, not bullshit suffering. Okay. Bullshit suffering is when you're not dealing with your circumstances. Okay. That's bullshit suffering. Okay. That's actually intolerance. Those dogs, man. Wow. This is the craziest video. This video is a personality disorder right here. Here we're having the fireworks. Okay. No, but the thing is that when you're disengaged from your environment, okay, that is not really suffering. You're not actually in a state of suffering. You're in a state of intolerance where you're not able to tolerate your circumstances. Okay. So I think real suffering is when we actually become engaged in the world. Okay. And I think that suffering actually will eventually open us to have healthier emotions. All right. So I know it may be controversial what I'm saying, but and also I'm not proposing the extreme. I'm not saying it's good to have extreme suffering. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying some level of suffering. Okay. Which means, true suffering. In other words, I'm engaged in the world and I'm not managing my feelings. Okay. I'm managing my circumstances. Okay. I'm managing my engagement with my circumstances. Okay. I think that kind of suffering, as long as it's not too much, okay, I think that actually opens us to having a healthy emotionality. All right. So I'm just putting it out there. Okay. I really think the focus should be more on our engagement and not on our emotionality, because I think emotionality is what got us here in the first place. Okay. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry about these dogs. I live in a country where people don't have control over their dogs. So there you go. Personality disorder metaphor. But anyway, yeah, so I hope this video has been interesting to some people. And I really believe this. I really think that, and don't make a caricature of what I'm saying. Okay. I'm not saying people need to have terrible suffering. Okay. What I'm saying is that we need to examine the difference between so-called suffering, okay, where we're having, let's say, terrible feelings, but we're not engaged in the world. The real crisis is that we become disengaged from the world. Okay. And in a way, I don't think it deserves to be called suffering when we're sort of unplugged from the world. Okay. That to me, I think we need to distinguish, or you can call it suffering if you want to, but there's something inauthentic about the emotionality of being disengaged from the world. Okay. I think when we become engaged in the world and we have the courage to get engaged, I think the feelings, the uncomfortable feelings that come from that, I think may open the door to being healthy. Okay. So I just put that out there. And again, take out the extremes. I'm not advocating for severe anything. Okay. If you get yourself into a severe emotional situation, you need to just go get help. Okay. I'm not talking about severe. I'm just talking about maybe step by step, getting more engaged in the world, focusing less on how you feel. Okay. And whatever uncomfortableness I have as I'm getting more engaged in the world, to just consider that may open the door to being healthier and may not be such a bad thing. Okay. Maybe we shouldn't be orchestrating and controlling and managing so much our discomforts in life. And we need to focus more on getting engaged in the world. So I suggest that it worked for me. Now, granted, I've had to go in steps. Okay. I didn't get here in just one snap of the fingers. I know that you have to recondition yourself. Okay. So I understand that, but I think we should at least be on the path towards putting less and less of a priority on how we feel. Okay. And more of a priority on being engaged in the world. So yeah, that's my suggestion. And thanks for watching. Sorry again for the dogs here. Talk to you later.